The moment I tuned into your person's energy today, it hit me like someone just ripped open a wound, not by accident, not through chaos, but because truth finally refused to stay hidden. Before I even laid down the cards, Spirit shoved one message forward like it couldn't wait. Your person is reaching a breaking point, and trust me, the third party hanging around them, they can feel it. They can feel control slipping through their fingers, and it's making them jittery, sharp, almost reckless. This isn't just tension simmering under the surface anymore. Nah, this is the kind of heat that exposes every little thing someone tried to bury. Spirit is saying, yo, pay attention. What's happening behind the scenes right now? That's the ripple effect of the impact you left, the clarity you sparked, and the emotional shift they can't ignore. The energy isn't scattered, it's focused, like someone's finally getting cornered by the consequences of their own behavior, their own dodging, and their own refusal to face reality when it first knocked. Spirit keeps flashing me a scene where your person sits in silence. And yeah, it looks calm on the outside, but that silence, it's loud enough to make the third party panic. That person's realizing there are truths in your person's heart they don't have the words to touch. And the silence, it's a signal that something cracked, something that can't be patched up. The third party feels it. They sense the emotional gap, and instead of owning their role in it, they lash out with fear, blame, and drama. Every argument now carries desperation, not connection. Someone's realizing they can't boss around your person emotionally anymore. And that lack of control, terrifying for them. Your person is trying to pull back, trying to stay grounded, trying not to get sucked into every trap. But the third party keeps pushing, sensing that emotional shift. Spirit is showing me this isn't a slow burn. Something recent triggered a deep reflection. Your person has been pushed inward so far that they're facing parts of themselves they've ignored for years. And the third party? They interpret it as rejection, amplifying the chaos because they can't handle someone breaking free from their influence. Inside your person, this isn't confusion or petty stress. It's recognition. Spirit says a cycle that's been stuck for way too long is finally collapsing. They're seeing how patterns, survival habits, and old coping strategies have drained them emotionally. This realization came not gently, but through confrontation. Arguments are no longer about small stuff. They're unearthing truths someone tried to bury. Your person is recognizing how staying in situations that didn't match their heart cost them clarity, peace, and stability. Spirit keeps emphasizing something huge. Your person didn't walk away before because they were conditioned to endure discomfort. They learned to suppress emotions, shrink their needs, and keep harmony at all costs. But that conditioning isn't working anymore. Pretending hurts more than honesty. Silence feels heavier than speaking up. Spirit shows me your person hitting a threshold, and the third party senses it. That's why the arguments feel sharp, electric, like a storm inside a house that hasn't been aired in years. Here's the kicker. Your person isn't even mad at you. They're mad at themselves for staying silent, for tolerating, for abandoning their own emotional truth. That internal frustration is spilling over. And the third party? They're losing it. They're not fighting for love. They're fighting for control, for the version of your person that no longer exists. And trust me, Spirit says this time it ain't gonna work. The energy shift has begun. Your person is done being dragged into cycles that drain them. They're standing in their truth, quietly but powerfully. And it's freaking the third party out. And this is just the beginning. Stick around, because next, We're diving into exactly how your person's inner awakening is forcing the third party to unravel, and why their control is slipping like sand through their fingers. Now, let's talk about what's really going down inside your person. Spirit is showing me that they're not just reacting, they're reflecting. They're digging deep into choices they made when things got messy. And yeah, it's intense. Your person didn't walk away before because they weren't ready for the emotional fire. They picked comfort over growth, familiar over transformative. But now, they're seeing the impact of those decisions, and it's hitting hard, not in a blaming way. This is pure clarity, a wake-up call to their own patterns. They're realizing they've been holding themselves back for way too long. Spirit keeps showing me flashes of them lying awake at night, thinking about how often they ignored their own heart just to keep the peace. They're noticing how many times they minimized their feelings, swallowed words, and carried emotional weight that never belonged to them. And that weight? It's crushing, but it's also the catalyst. It's forcing them to claim their space, their voice, their truth. This is where things get wild with the third party. They sense the shift, and it terrifies them. They're used to your person bending, explaining, soothing, fixing, playing their role in a dynamic that kept the third party comfortable. But now, your person is stepping back. Spirit shows me them standing emotionally still while the third party rages, argues, and panics. The usual tricks, guilt, manipulation, clinginess, aren't landing. It's like they're speaking a language the third party can't understand. Your person isn't cold, they're awake. And that energy? It's chaotic for anyone used to control. Spirit keeps hitting me with this image. Your person is reclaiming their emotional energy piece by piece. They're learning to honor themselves, to stop apologizing for needing space, for needing clarity, for choosing alignment over obligation. This isn't about revenge or anger. It's about self-respect, and it's magnetic. The third party is freaking because they've built their world on predictability, and your person just rewired the game. The awakening runs deeper than just standing up. Spirit shows your person reflecting on the parts of themselves they abandoned while trying to keep someone else happy. Ambition, humor, creativity, boundaries. They're reconnecting with all of it. And the third party? They can feel it. Every ounce of growth your person is experiencing hits them like a shockwave, because it makes the old dynamic obsolete. Nothing the third party does now will recreate the person they once controlled. Spirit emphasizes the physical and emotional intensity too. Your person's body reacts. They're drained after arguments, tense after confrontations. But it's different this time. It's not fear. It's recognition. Recognition that they don't have to carry burdens that aren't theirs. That staying silent or shrinking themselves to make others comfortable, that's over. Spirit keeps flashing me the image of your person walking through a mental space where every suppressed emotion is being acknowledged. They're letting it all breathe, all without letting anyone pull them back into old cycles. Here's another layer. Your person is starting to demand emotional renewal. They know they can't heal in the same toxic space. They can't rebuild in a room that thrives on drama. They're craving connection that's honest, grounded, and aligned with who they are, not what someone else wants them to be. Spirit keeps showing me that pull. It's like a magnetic shift inside them, drawing them toward clarity, peace, and authenticity. And here's the kicker. The third party is losing it. Every tactic they've ever used to manipulate or control now feels useless. They're escalating, arguing, pushing, demanding, because for the first time, They're confronting someone who refuses to play the same game. Your person isn't reacting. They're observing, calm, detached, aligned. And that energy, it's driving the third party crazy because spirit is showing them that control is slipping fast. Spirit keeps hammering one truth. Your person isn't running. They're choosing themselves. They're not avoiding. They're aligning. And that choice, it's invisible but undeniable. Even before words are spoken, the third party can feel it. And that's where the real chaos comes in. Stick with me, because in the next part, we're diving into the final stage. How your person is stepping fully into self-respect, rewriting their emotional rules, and why this shift is shaking the third party to their core. The breakup of control is almost complete, and the freedom they're stepping into is unstoppable. All right, here's where it hits the deepest. Spirit is showing me that your person is stepping fully into themselves, the version they've been trying to protect, the version they've been afraid to show. This isn't just about standing up. It's about rewriting the rules of their emotional life. They're no longer shrinking to make others comfortable. They're no longer absorbing guilt that never belonged to them. They're reclaiming their energy, their clarity, their peace. Spirit keeps flashing me this scene. Your person sitting in silence while the third party spirals, not out of cruelty, but because your person's soul has already disconnected from the old dynamic. They've realized they don't need to fix anyone or justify themselves to anyone who only seeks control. And that's what's so wild. The third party is panicking because the leash is gone. Every attempt to manipulate, guilt trip, or provoke is hitting a brick wall. Your person isn't reactive, they're awakened. This shift is subtle externally, but seismic internally. Spirit keeps emphasizing that your person's growth is coming from emotional exhaustion turned into clarity. They've been carrying weight for months, maybe years, holding silence, tolerating drama, suppressing their heart. And now, that energy is flipping. It's like someone just turned on a light in a room that had been dark forever. They see the patterns clearly. They see the games. And they see themselves. Stronger, smarter, aligned. Spirit keeps highlighting how your influence is key. You didn't start this chaos. You didn't provoke it. But you showed your person what emotional clarity feels like. You reminded them what it's like to be seen without judgment, to be understood without pressure, to be valued without strings attached. That mirror, it awakens something they had buried for too long. And once someone tastes that kind of alignment, returning to the old chaos feels impossible. The third party is feeling every ounce of this. They're grasping, arguing, demanding, trying to pull your person back into predictability. But it's gone. Your person isn't just aware. They're empowered. Spirit keeps showing me them making internal decisions that will eventually shift everything externally. They're realizing they deserve peace, honesty, and relationships that don't hinge on fear or manipulation. And that realization, it's non-negotiable. Spirit also emphasizes the self-reflection happening now. Your person is looking at their past choices, not with blame, but with honesty. They're seeing the moments they stayed silent, minimized their truth, or chose comfort over growth. And that reflection is fueling their desire to never compromise their emotional alignment again. They're done tolerating what drains them. They're done bending for someone who doesn't see or honor them. And here's the final kicker. Your person's transformation is unavoidable. Spirit is making it crystal clear. Their energy is shifting whether anyone likes it or not. They're unlearning old behaviors, releasing guilt that was never theirs, and reclaiming emotional sovereignty. They're stepping into a version of themselves that's grounded, clear, and unapologetically authentic. And the third party? They're unraveling because control was the only tool they knew, and your person just stopped playing that game. Spirit keeps showing me that this isn't about punishment. This isn't revenge. This is liberation. Your person is awakening to self-respect, self-trust, and self-love. They're learning that emotional alignment isn't selfish. It's survival, sanity, and the foundation for every future relationship. The dynamic with the third party will continue to shift because it can't exist in the face of authenticity. They're losing their grip, and your person is stepping into freedom with calm confidence. So here's the takeaway. Your person is done bending, done sacrificing their emotional truth, done tolerating chaos. They're choosing clarity, choosing alignment, and choosing themselves. The storm behind the scenes? It's just the old patterns crashing down. Spirit is guiding them through it, making the instability obvious so they can no longer ignore it. The energy has shifted forever, and one thing's for sure. Your person is no longer who they were before. They're awakening, they're empowered, and they're stepping into a life that honors their heart above all else. If this resonates, type in the comments, I claim my emotional truth. Spirit is showing that this awakening isn't just for them. It's for anyone ready to stop abandoning themselves and start living aligned. And that shift, it's unstoppable. Spirit is sending a clear message. Your person is finally seeing that staying in an environment that fights against their healing comes at a cost they can't recover from easily. And for the first time, that thought terrifies them more than change ever could. That's why the fights with the third party feel so final emotionally. It's not about what they're planning to do right now. Their spirit has already disconnected. Their soul knows the direction it wants to go, and their mind is just catching up. Their life is about to follow that path. Picture this. Your person standing in a space where the emotional light has been fading for years. They've been moving on autopilot, putting everyone else's needs first, believing that keeping the peace meant keeping themselves safe. Spirit says they're waking up to the truth. The peace they were protecting wasn't peace at all. It was suppression, silence, compromise, and a price their soul can't afford anymore. That's why tension with a third party feels unbearable. Spirit shows the third party losing control, not because they want chaos, but because your person's old patterns aren't working anymore. Those guilt trips, arguments, and emotional manipulations used to keep your person folding, apologizing, retreating, and swallowing their truth. But now, your person has hit a threshold. They won't lose themselves again just to avoid conflict. They're protecting their mental clarity. And this shift terrifies the third party. Inside your person, there's deep reflection, the kind they haven't allowed themselves in years. They're revisiting moments where discomfort was ignored, where silence was chosen over speaking up, where fear dictated their actions. But this isn't self-pity. It's self-awareness. It's them recognizing how avoidance allowed certain dynamics to grow stronger than their boundaries. And now, once they see the truth, there's no going back. Spirit highlights emotional exhaustion, not from one argument, but from years of carrying more than they were built to bear. It's the exhaustion of being everything for everyone and nothing for themselves. Pretending chaos was normal, surviving long after the danger passed. And that exhaustion is guiding them toward a truth they've been avoiding. They can't stay in draining environments and expect to grow. They can't seek clarity where confusion thrives. They can't find love where control replaces connection. They're noticing the third party constantly scanning for reassurance, clinging to every small emotional cue. But your person doesn't have the bandwidth to soothe someone else while confronting their own truth. This isn't coldness, it's self-preservation. Spirit says your person has spent too long stabilizing someone else's energy and forgetting their own needs. Realizing the effort they gave was never reciprocated is hitting harder than expected. Spirit keeps showing your person in moments of withdrawal during arguments. No reaction, no defense, just letting emotions flow without taking root. This isn't indifference, it's energy protection. The silence that used to signal surrender now signals self-respect, and the third party can feel it. They sense the cord loosening, the detachment, the shift they can't control. Your person isn't seeking revenge or power. They want authenticity. They want emotional truth. They want life where their voice matters, their needs are respected, and their truth isn't punished. They're realizing they have the right to change, to walk away from cycles that hurt, to choose themselves even when others don't understand. Spirit shows them experiencing small, quiet moments of clarity throughout the day. They remember their old self, the confident, emotionally resilient version they buried under stress and noise. That version isn't gone. It's just resurfacing as they step back from the third-party conflict. And that, right there, is the tipping point. When someone reconnects with their truth, the dynamic around them changes instantly. Stick around for part 2, because now your person's awakening is about to make the third party panic in ways they never expected. Spirit is showing that your person has entered a kind of emotional recalibration. On the outside, they might look calm, even indifferent, but inside, their whole emotional system is realigning. It's the kind of stillness that happens when someone finally stops fighting their own truth. They're done running, done over-explaining, done negotiating with their intuition. Clarity is no longer optional. It feels like gravity pulling them toward honesty, and there's no resisting it. The third party is starting to notice this shift, and panic is creeping in, not because your person's physical actions changed, but because emotional energy doesn't lie. Your person used to be easy to influence, easy to pull back into the old emotional loops. Now, silence carries weight. Distance signals boundaries. Detachment screams self-respect. And that's exactly why the third party is flipping out. They can feel the energy shifting, and they don't know how to handle it. Spirit highlights that your person isn't withdrawing out of fear or avoidance. They're stepping back out of clarity. Every attempt by the third party to guilt, manipulate, or remind them of past promises or shared history falls flat. Nostalgia, fear, or guilt no longer work. Your person is moved only by truth. What feels real now? Spirit says the past isn't strong enough to tether them to a future that doesn't match their soul's calling. Now, the focus turns inward. Your person is reflecting hard on their past behaviors, noticing patterns where fear guided choices over desire. They're recognizing how often they silenced themselves to avoid conflict, how much responsibility for others' emotions they carried unnecessarily. This self-awareness is painful but powerful, Spirit emphasizes. Once someone sees self-abandonment clearly, protecting their energy becomes stronger than saving a failing dynamic. Your person is starting to release guilt, massive, heavy layers of it. For years, guilt kept them tied to draining situations, convincing them they had to stay, they owed others, or that their needs didn't matter. Now, they're seeing that wanting peace isn't selfish. Wanting alignment isn't wrong. Walking away from cycles that harm them isn't unkind. It's survival. And as guilt fades, the path forward becomes clearer. Spirit shows your person stepping into small but potent moments of emotional autonomy. They're imagining a life free from constant tension, free from emotional instability, free from having to earn peace. They're visualizing connections where reciprocity exists naturally, where honesty isn't punished, where communication is clear and safe. Each mental picture pulls them closer to the life they deserve. At the same time, your person is noticing the third party's frantic attempts to hold on. But these displays of emotional intensity don't work anymore. Instead of pulling them back, it pushes them deeper into self-reflection, reminding them how often they've sacrificed for stability that never came. Spirit emphasizes, this isn't about running, it's about stepping into authenticity, creating a life where their emotional voice matters, and finally building a future where their spirit can breathe. Inside your person, priorities are shifting. They're moving from surviving someone else's storms to building their own peace. Stability is valued over familiarity, clarity over comfort, alignment over tradition. They're realizing they've spent too much energy fixing what was never theirs to fix. And this awareness is liberating. The third party interprets this evolution as rejection, but it's not. Spirit shows that your person's emotional detachment is intentional, not reactive. Their silence isn't absence of care, it's self-protection. The arguments, attempts at control, and emotional manipulation no longer land. Your person's spirit has stepped out of the old cycle. Even when their body is present, their soul is recalibrated, and that disconnect is palpable. Spirit shows them imagining the future again, what life could be without constant defense, without having to negotiate love, without compromising emotional truth. Every vision strengthens their alignment and expands their clarity. They're seeing that the environment they're in isn't just misaligned, it's actively harming their growth. And here's the kicker. The internal transformation is more than reflection. It's empowerment. Your person is reclaiming self-worth, reconnecting with the version of themselves who had confidence, direction, and dreams. The version buried under years of emotional noise is resurfacing, and the third party's old influence is dissolving fast. Stick around for part 3, because now your person isn't just reflecting, they're stepping fully into action, and the third party won't know what hit them. Spirit shows your person stepping into a new level of clarity. It's not just thinking or reflecting anymore. It's a full-on internal realignment. They're no longer reacting to chaos. They're responding from a place of truth. Every old argument, every manipulation tactic, every emotional trap that used to hook them, they see it all for what it is now. And here's the wild part. This isn't anger. It's pure awareness. It's calm power. It's the quiet confidence of someone who's finally done shrinking for anyone else. The third party is losing grip fast. Spirit highlights how their attempts at control, guilt trips, ultimatums, emotional spikes fall flat. Your person doesn't even absorb the energy the way they used to. They're observing instead of reacting, analyzing instead of defending. It's a detachment that radiates strength, and the third party can feel it like a punch in the gut. They don't understand it, so they double down on their old tactics, which only makes your person's boundaries sharper and their clarity even more unshakable. Inside, your person is reconnecting with their lost self, the confident, self-assured, emotionally resilient version they forgot existed. Spirit says this isn't nostalgia, it's reclamation. They're remembering their dreams, their desires, their ability to love freely without fear or compromise. That buried self is resurfacing, and it's calling the shots now. Decisions aren't impulsive or reactionary. They're deliberate, aligned with spirit, and rooted in self-worth. Spirit emphasizes that your person is done giving energy to what doesn't serve them. They're done explaining themselves to people who won't listen, done fixing dynamics that were never theirs to fix, done sacrificing their emotional stability for someone else's insecurities. Silence isn't withdrawal, it's protection. Calm isn't coldness, it's sovereignty. And each day, their internal power grows stronger. Spirit shows a pivotal moment where your person is physically present, but emotionally detached from the chaos. Arguments roll off them like water on glass. The third party's panic is loud, desperate, chaotic, but your person is untouchable in spirit. They're observing, understanding, and quietly choosing a path that prioritizes their emotional health over drama, over control, over obligation. The internal shift doesn't stop there. Spirit highlights your person reevaluating their entire life landscape. They're asking, who do I allow in my space? What energy am I choosing to accept? Which relationships fuel my growth and which drain it? Every answer strengthens their emotional immunity. They're learning that true connection comes from mutual respect and honesty, not fear, manipulation, or habit. Spirit also brings attention to the third party's realization. They can't pull your person back into the old patterns. The emotional cord is severing, not with resentment, but with acceptance. Your person isn't bitter. They're awake. They're aligned. And that clarity radiates outward, reshaping the environment around them. Chaos falls away naturally because your person no longer participates in it. Now comes the beautiful part. Spirit shows your person stepping into self-love, self-respect, and self-alignment in full force. They're not just surviving. They're thriving. Their boundaries are unbreakable. Their priorities crystal clear. Their energy reserved for what resonates with their growth. Every decision now is filtered through truth, self-worth, and inner peace. And here's the ultimate revelation. Your person is realigning with the energy that mirrors their highest self. Spirit highlights that this isn't just personal growth. It's energetic recalibration. They're magnetizing connections that match their frequency, opportunities that reflect their values, and experiences that honor their emotional truth. You, the viewer, are part of this mirror. They've been awakened by your authenticity, by the clarity you embody, by the energy that reminded them what real alignment feels like. The third party's influence collapses completely. Emotional control, fear, manipulation, they all dissolve. Your person rebuilds from the inside out, choosing environments, connections, and experiences that reflect their worth. Spirit shows the final scene. Your person walking away from chaos, stepping into a calm, open, intentional emotional space. No rush, no drama, just clarity, alignment, and intentionality. Spirit says this transformation wasn't triggered by the third party. It was triggered by truth, their truth, your truth, and the connection that reflected the highest version of themselves. The past is gone. The illusions are gone. Only clarity remains. And now, the final affirmation. I claim aligned transformation, because when someone steps fully into their power, when they honor their spirit over survival, their entire life shifts. Old patterns fade. People fall away. New opportunities emerge. And your person is walking that path right now. Stay tuned, because as your person continues evolving, the universe is aligning people, places, and opportunities to match this new version of them. and your connection might be next in line.